Okay, Karen. So I was going to have you identify yourself, but I already told the audience what your first name is. So you're Karen, but let's start off by how old you are and where you're from and how long you've been here.
Okay, so I'm 19 and I am originally from Mexico and I moved here when I was 14 years old. I was about to turn 15. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess if I asked you, like, suppose that I'm living in another country and I know that you
Hmm.
moved here, and I said, "Hey, Karen, I turned on the TV and there's all of this, protest and then there's cars on fire and people yelling and screaming at each other and all that. What's going on? I mean, what would you say to me?"
Well, I would tell you that there is a lot of racial tension right now between mainly people of color and white people. I think because there are just so many differences between people of color and white people that we don't understand in between each other. Um, so there's a lot of differences that cause people to clash. Um, a lot of independence between people, so everyone has their own opinions, and when they hear someone else have an opinion that doesn't like course with theirs, it might come off as like an attack instead of like a criticism of the government or on how social status is right now. Um, I think that sometimes when people do criticize like systematic racism, a lot of white people, I think, tend to see that as a personal attack towards them and their family. So that's what I would say to someone from a different country. There's a lot of different opinions and not enough understanding.
Hey, that's a great way to put it because I think what happens very often is people are very emotional on both sides,
Hmm.
but sometimes that really prevents them from listening to the other person. And that works both ways. And if you're not listening, then you're really not having a conversation.
Yeah.
But now tell us about your ethnic background. And you had mentioned that you've had some interesting experiences on the job in terms of answering phones.
Hmm.
And I think you mentioned that you don't have an accent, so people might not assume that you're of what background.
Yeah, so I am from Mexico. When I moved here, I had a very thick accent, which I thought was kind of embarrassing just because I noticed that a lot of people tended to point it out. It was one of the first things that people said about me, like, "Oh, you have an accent," or "Where are you from?" Like, I can tell that you're from somewhere else, kind of thing. So it made me really feel like an outsider, especially because here in Washington, it is not as diverse as it is in other places that I've lived before. So it really felt like they were singling me out as someone different from somewhere else, somewhere strange, even though there are a lot of Mexican Americans here. Um, but I think that just being myself an immigrant made it so people really pointed it out that I am different, that I am somewhere else. Um, so at work, I got rid of my accent in high school by watching TV and copying how other people around me spoke, just because I really didn't want to be singled out in school because I did have a lot of people teasing me about my accent, and it kind of just reminded me of that, like, I'm different from other people. And there was many other immigrants there, so I felt like in my high school, at least, I felt very alone. Um, but at work, after I got rid of my accent, of course, I noticed that a lot of people said very racist things towards uh, people from other countries. I don't know if that would be considered racism, but it was discrimination for sure towards people who I relate to very much. So there's a lot of immigrants at my work, and a lot of the guys that work there don't speak English. So I am the translator for them. And usually clients call me and then I call them. And I'm kind of the in between. So I'm like the middleman. So I get a lot of people sometimes calling me and being like, oh, like, I can't believe you sent those Mexicans out here. And that itself is pretty bad to say because obviously not everyone there is Mexican and it kind of just generalizes everyone together. And it just comes off as really wrong. And they'll say things like, I don't think they deserve to be paid that much, or I don't want to pay that much because they didn't do as good of a job. Or people will be like, uh, where's your English speaking crew? Where's your white crew? Like, I need people here who are like me, kind of thing. And that really just creates more of a separation between people of color and white people because a lot of our clients are white people. So it's really hard for me because I myself am an immigrant and I did not know English. Well, I didn't know very much English coming here. So to hear people talk like that about people who don't know English, to me, makes me feel bad because that's what they're thinking about me, or that's what they thought about me, or that's what they think about my mom or my dad when they hear them talking in the store. But they don't know that I am an immigrant over the phone, of course, and they don't know that I speak Spanish and that I am born in Mexico and that I am Mexican. They don't know that because they can't hear that over the phone. So it really feels bad because I know that if they knew, that if they saw me, they wouldn't be talking to me like that. They wouldn't say those things. So it's kind of just like they're racist or they're just, you know, bad people, I guess, behind like a mask kind of. So they're like really rude in private when they know there are no other minorities around. But I know that if they saw me and they were speaking to me in person and they knew like my background, they wouldn't say those things, you know? So I feel like it just shows their true colors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I think it's kind of an interesting situation because in some ways I think it's a blessing to find out who people really are. And like you said, a lot of times it's hidden. And if people think that the microphone's not on, or if they're talking to somebody on the phone that's just like them, that's when their true selves come out. So in some
Mhm.
ways, or in a lot of ways, I think it's actually a gift in a way, because I would much rather know the way somebody truly was than to think this is my friend or they're, liberal or whatever I might think. And then 5 years later, I find out that they actually look down on another race of people. And that's what I'm getting from what you're talking about, is that the context that they're talking about Mexicans is in a negative light. Now, they could have said, oh, they have
Mhm.
an accent. Oh, why don't you send those wonderful Canadians over? Well, that's going to have a whole different feel to it, right? But when you say, why'd you
Yeah.
send me those Mexicans? I mean, automatically, they didn't have to say verbatim, I don't like Mexicans or I think they're inferior, but
Mhm.
but their behavior, their language, and their tone is indicating that. So, and then
Yeah.
you said something interesting too about losing your accent. And um, that's another thing. I mean, I've read some stories and articles about how in this country, different accents are looked upon in different ways, sometimes good, sometimes bad. So if you're from Mexico, or you have a Spanish accent or Hispanic, Latinx accent, or whatever, but that in some cases is looked down upon. Whereas if you could be from a different country with an accent, say Great Britain, and people
Mhm.
would look at it differently. So it's kind of a sad situation, I think.
Yeah, I feel like with my accent being a very thick Mexican accent when I first got here, it made people think that I was dumber than I am. Just because like I noticed that in class, my teachers would go really easy on me, even though I've been a really great student my entire life, and I would say that I'm pretty good English, even with an accent. I was really good at English. I've always liked writing in English, and I knew my grammar pretty well, and everything that I could learn in school. So coming here when I was in class, my teachers would kind of talk slow to me, like I wouldn't understand or something. And it's just kind of offensive to me in that way because they thought that I knew less than I know, and they didn't give me a chance to even try until I got put in the lowest level classes because of that, because they thought that I wouldn't be able to be in an English speaking school. So once I finished my first year of high school, um, my English teacher actually reached out to me and she was like, Karen, like, I think you should have been placed in this class. I think you should have gone to AP. So I did switch to a lot of AP classes my junior year of high school, just because those were at my level. But I really did think that if my sophomore year of high school, they had given me the chance to show like what I knew, they wouldn't have put me in such low level classes. Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, and that's a negative and in a way a destructive kind of thing in so many ways. Because for one thing, ironically, I think that probably that teacher or those teachers that were talking slower and assuming that you weren't as intelligent, in their minds, they might have thought they were being sensitive.
Yeah, that they
Or
were being helpful.
they were being helpful, but what they were doing is that they were stereotyping you,
Mm-hmm.
and conceivably they could have actually held you back from even progressing as far as you've come today, because they're acting on the assumption that you're not capable. So why don't you just tell me, you said that you're in school now and that you had a pretty high grade point average, which I'm jealous of because I didn't have one. But tell me a little bit about that.
So I am in college right now, and I'm about to finish my years to get my associates in psychology. And I my end game would really just be getting a doctorate in psychology. But I think I do pretty well in my classes, especially my English classes. I really like writing. I've always liked writing my entire life. Uh, Obviously, because we're in this pandemic, all my classes are online. So I think that gives me the benefit kind of, because I am not like people don't expect anything of me. They just know me by a computer screen. Obviously, I don't have an accent anymore now, so that also really helps me because I feel like a lot of people do tend to stereotype, and they might do it subconsciously, and they think they might be like trying to help instead of being offensive. So I'm doing pretty well in my classes. I always have. I don't know. I know a lot of people aren't good at school, and I really think that not everyone should have to be put at the same standards for school. And I have a lot of opinions about that, but I have always been a good student for the school system how it is now. Um, I think what really helped me was in elementary school. Uh, my school in Mexico, actually, we had a lot of English classes, and they really pushed me to write. So I really enjoyed writing, and I liked writing stories, and I really liked writing biographies. And once I moved here, all of my essays were extremely done because I'm also a perfectionist, and I hate not like making the vision that I have in my head come true. So I would spend a lot of time on my essays in high school. And honestly, some of my essays from high school are my best work that I've done. Like I wrote an essay about why prostitution should be legal, and I think that's the best essay that I've ever written. That was in junior year of high school, but I spent so much time on that. I think it was 15 pages, but then my teacher made me cut it down to 8 pages because it was just way too long. Um, but yeah, but I think I'm a really good writer, and I think online online classes in college right now are really helping me because my teachers don't expect anything from me. They don't know me because I think in-person classes can kind of give that opportunity for teachers to make a judgment on students and make an opinion based on how they look or how they act in class or anything like that. But right now, it's just a computer screen. They only know me by my name and my picture. So I really like that.
Well, good. I'm going to thank you for doing this. And I didn't hit, so wait, hold on a second. I have to hit the stop.